Hi. Good morning. We are glad you made it back to this summer's course on Baroque literature, where in Echoes of Enlightenment we survey figures of when Baroque architecture was elaborate, but more so uncontained and savage in content. Philosophers translate ideas into the world where proof of their ability to communicate is abhorrent of our remembrance of them today.
Seventh literary figure. A study with Francis Hutcheson. 1694 to 1746. Not that these literary figures of the Enlightenment presented are the only people who were documenting theory in Baroque literature, but consciously or subconsciously in the order of their mortality we first thought. Why these and not others, one may ask, however rightly or not. We might explain either from availability to markets outside a monopoly, proximity to information, or a natural inclination to fellowship with figures whose documented rationale clarifies what some thought and disturbed others whose beliefs contradicted. We aren't saying that there weren't others with better educations that didn't already know the earth was round, but like we say, the printing press coupled with the scientific and industrial revolutions awakened something in the masses who just previously felt the more indulgences one could afford was the closer to the Lord's favor they would be. Sure, take a name brand soda off the shelves, but that doesn't mean that it is off the market. Figures presented are, because surveying others of the time English media directs us to prefer red-labeled products which we know aren't harmful for consumption. Those of this age explained that they were not only good for consumption, but edible. Like pastry is the flower of the culinary world, of literature blooming like a flower, theirs is Baroque. It's of significance that where the turmoil of a world at constant regal war or feeling strife therefrom, enlightened individuals proved that through literature there is a beauty and clarity and consequent reason. Francis Hutcheson was a moral philosopher who considered 11 senses, where first sensing morality, aesthetics and virtue, being ethical, superseded morality, and teaching in English he became a department chair.
Parliament passed their 1689 Bill of Rights, which disallowing Catholicism in English monarchs. The Glorious Revolution had already taken place, where Francis Hutcheson was born under Mary II, but within 5 months William III would reign. These figures are so in their relation to time and place, where knowing parameters helps one understand the philosopher's position. Hutcheson would see Queen Anne, Kings George I and George II, where under them his Scottish rite included would structure his thought. Though born in County Down, Northern Ireland, to a Scottish Presbyterian family, his roots were Scottish around about Ayrshire. With a primary education at Killyleagh, Hutcheson would matriculate to the University of Glasgow in Scotland from 1710 to 1718, where studying philosophy, literature, and the classics, theology would follow. His father was of Ulster Scottish stock and a Presbyterian minister, so Hutcheson, falling in his father's footsteps as the preacher of philosophy, his epithet he earned in school, was foreseen. Though earning a degree in 1712, his Irish birth and suspected association with New Licht through John Simpson numbed his ministry in Scotland, so moving to Ireland he started a private academy in Dublin without returning to Scotland for 11 years. His benevolence theory differs from Hobbes' self-love, as love is indifferent, but theory approved.
A moral philosopher and one of the first writers on aesthetics, virtue synonymy with morality, Hutcheson added 6 other senses to consider where consciousness becomes paramount. Writing treatises in 1725 on an inquiry concerning beauty, order, harmony, and design, he posits perceiving beauty, harmony, and proportion is a special sense. To the 5 senses Hutcheson identifies after consciousness 2. Beauty, 3. Morality, 4. Virtue, 5. Honor and 6. Ridiculousness as concepts also sensed. Only through consciousness do we recognize our perspective of beauty, whereby in morality we identify things as virtuous or vicious. In honor we value virtue so much so that with its opposite being ridiculous, laughter results. As with any determination of the mind, reactionary or of our own will, we sense something, and in sensing it, we divide virtuous behavior from its opposite. Why? Well, because more so programmed for virtuous behavior, we must believe we are essentially good, as the author of nature wouldn't torture us with behavior less dignified. Moral sense and its judgment are distinguished where less thought is afforded senses, but in judgment time and mere options of alternates could lead to misapprehension or more frightening practical errors.
The preacher of philosophy, after being hired by his alma mater in 1729 as its chair of moral philosophy, wasn't allowed to lecture in Latin. Though his predecessors had since the University of Glasgow's founding by papal bull in 1451, the Scottish Enlightenment had already begun with Hutcheson at the vanguard of English morality. With the university being the 4th oldest in the English Empire, it wasn't just as strategic to Anglicans that the university lectured in English as it was for Catholics Latin spoke, but invaluable to Great Britain, Henry VIII and the House of Tudor. In Scotland, however, neither Catholics or Anglicans superseded Scottish rite of presbyters who, like old soldiers worn from the rigors of battle and life, stand at attention when Scottish rite is mentioned at low tone. Protecting Caledonia, Latin for Scotland, its people, produce and products, they served as elder council and proved Hutcheson's natural inclination for fellowship, and so, sovereign. Delivering his inauguration speech in 1730, Hutcheson, whose work had previously been anonymous, wrote a speech titled De Naturale Hominum Socialitate, which discussed mankind's natural inclination for fellowship. He influenced Adam Smith and later Enlightenment thinkers, through his teachings at Glasgow, where it wasn't so much the material taught but individual presenters' character and delivery. More like charisma, Hutcheson's foundation in preaching enhanced public speaking skills wherewith them and, enlightened in oration, some heard, understood and sharing with others, the Scottish Enlightenment gained momentum.
A moral philosopher and one of the first to write on aesthetics, Hutcheson adds 6 senses to the known 5 and becomes chair of moral philosophy at Glasgow. In sensing consciousness, we identify beauty and sympathize where that sensus communis defines our morality. With morality established, honor is revered and ridiculousness humorous.
That's all the information we have for you at the time. We hope you learned a little more and can better comprehend why we categorize philosophical authors' works of the period as Baroque and remember them now for their contributions. In our 8th session we cover a study with Charles Louis Voltaire. Until then, thank you for your time and consideration.